Eating out adds up, but it is especially expensive in our state. The Washington Hospitality Association just came out with their cost of dining report, ranking Seattle as the second most costly city to eat out, right below San Francisco. Seattleites are paying 17% more than the average price compared to other big cities. And statewide, get this, we are #1 most expensive, with menu prices almost 14% higher than the national average. The report compared 48 states, excluding Hawaii and Alaska. The study looked at 20 restaurant chains with spots in most states. Earlier, I talked with the president of WHA, Anthony Antone.
You can't tell me this is a lifestyle issue. You cannot tell me this is a lifestyle issue. Like, you wonder why you got people complaining about rent and everything, but they eat out often. But this is not a lifestyle issue? Yeah, this is a joke. This is... You can't tell me I'm wrong. This is a lifestyle issue to the highest extent. You can't change the fact that people want to just be lazy and don't want to cook. It's just pitiful.
Seattle doesn't really surprise me, but to hear that statewide we are #1 most expensive in the mainland U.S., that's a bit surprising. So break down the specific reasons on why it is so expensive to dine in our state.
Yeah, we were really surprised by that too when we saw the numbers. We knew it'd be upper mark, but to see #1, I think validated a lot of the anxiety we're hearing from a lot of the members, and the drivers of that are a lot of the costs that are unique to Washington. A lot of the things we've chosen to support our states to do just have a cost to them, and they're expensive, and at the end of the day they drive up the cost for business, and they drive up what you pay in the menus. And so when you combine this with the major study that was done last year on average profit margins, we saw that Washington's labor cost is approaching 40%, which is much higher than the rest of the country. The labor costs are approaching 40%, and yet our average margin is at 1.5%. So we're 60% lower, less profitable than if you were in just about any other state. And so to have higher costs, and at the end of the day we have to pass them on. And so you combine a lot of the wage laws we have here in Washington, a lot of the tax laws, and a lot of the regulatory laws, it just starts adding up, and at the end of the day the customers are seeing it on their bill.
That is a fact. That is a fact. And let me see, I was trying to see if this was a nonprofit. The Washington Hospitality Association is a leading group representing the hospitality industry in Washington State, serving over 6,000 members. Damn. It provides a range of service. Okay. But, yep, that is a fact. Of course, you just got to understand that as long as y'all keep, voting the way y'all think, you got to think about this. If you keep thinking if you keep thinking with your emotions rather than thinking like a business, because whether you like it or not, your life is a business decision. When you make these choices in your life, it is a business decision at the end of the day. Whether you are cooking, whether you're trying to get what you need for the house, it's a business expense. You're still conducting business, whether you like it or not. And for the fact of the matter is, they have so many people that eat out. Trust me, I don't even eat out. It's just crazy. Matter of fact, I literally just cooked me a whole pot of red beans and rice. Like, seriously. It didn't take me that much. I spend about $150 a week, sometimes less, to get me through the whole entire week. I could cook one pot of food and it could last me about 3 to 4 days, possibly 5. You cannot tell me this is a lifestyle issue. I budget like a business. Of course, taxes is going to be one proposition, the rise of minimum wage. If y'all would have thought about, instead of raising minimum wage and lowering taxes, y'all wouldn't have this issue. Y'all caused this issue because y'all wanted higher minimum wage, no common sense, and higher taxes. Makes no sense. Why would you tax yourself to debt? Why would you take more money out of your pockets rather than put more money in your pockets? And one of the... You know what? I'm gonna wait.
You're saying when you talk about labor prices, are you talking about specific wages?
So when we talk about labor costs, there's three main costs in a restaurant: the labor cost, the cost of your food, and then the cost of everything else. And those are generally, when operators talk, those are the big buckets. Labor costs are typically the wages, the benefits, the requirements that you need to pay for to go with labor.
Because they can't afford to pay for the workers. When you have high minimum wage, you have a harder time paying for the workers. So what are they gonna do? Fire some, let them go?
Talking about state policies. State policies are in that. You said that we have things.
So the state minimum wage would be in that. The state overtime rules would be in that. The workers' comp and unemployment insurance taxes, all those labor costs directed to hiring someone to cook your great food and give you great service would go into that bucket.
This is why we need to come with a flat tax when it comes to businesses. A lot of businesses that I've heard, and I've talked to quite a few people, they're getting taxed up the wazoo. This is why, I spoke with a few, and they say, out of all the people, I had actually negotiated with them personally, and I told them, if they will vote for me, I would literally go with a 10% flat tax overall, and they actually would like that. Honestly, I think a lot of people are getting maybe probably 25, maybe 35, possibly even more. It's just ridiculous.
So Seattle too, obviously we just mentioned that San Francisco was #1, but Seattle was...
As a matter of fact, they have two different taxes, which is really stupid. I think they should have both taxes combined instead of having two different taxes. I don't think that makes sense. There should not be two separate taxes. It should be one fucking tax overall.
#2, not very surprised by that, but I do wanted to bring up this this quote that you had in your report, because it was an anonymous restaurant owner, it sounds like, but works in Seattle, and he said, quote, "When Seattle officials still wanted affordable, great restaurants in the city, my dining room was filled with families growing up in my restaurant. Now the only ones who can afford my art are lawyers, tech executives, and tourists. Even though it's the same menu, my business is fine, but my heart is broken." That was...
You know something? When they come talk about affordable housing, who do you think footing the bill for all this bullshit? As a matter of fact, I have to put that in play. When you literally talking about affordable fucking housing, something that you can come out of pocket, learn how to save your money properly instead of taking loans. If you don't understand loans by now, loans were never meant for personal use. It was meant for business purposes only. So if you're taking pretty much trying to build affordable housing, who you think footing the bill? It's not just it's not just personally the us as taxpayers, it's freaking businesses as well. Small businesses too. Y'all talking about tax the rich, you will never be able to get that money out of them as much as you think you are. And I talked about this a while back. I literally had a video posted. And I'm going to leave that at the end of the tab. But personally, what do you think you're doing?
Broken. That was a pretty profound, statement from that person who obviously have been serving, Seattleites for many, many years, and just have seen kind of this change. And a lot of people, the middle people, can't afford to eat at his place.
Yeah, it was such. I was in the room when he said it. It was such a prophetic statement, and you could tell it was from his heart. He just loved his.
Matter of fact, wasn't Bob Ferguson a lawyer? That kind of rang a bell for a minute when you think about it, and I had to reread that again. It said approximately. So it said, when Seattle officials wanted affordable, great restaurants in the city, my dining room was filled with families growing up in my restaurant. Now only the ones who can afford my are lawyers, Bob Ferguson, tech executives, and tourists. It's Bob Ferguson fault.
Yeah, it was such. I was in the room when he said it. It was such a prophetic statement, and you could tell it was from his heart. He just loved his business, and the costs in the city and the drivers in the city has just forced him to increase his prices to the point of what he needs to do to serve great food for his restaurant has become unaffordable for others.
Because he has to pay his workers, and he has to pay all the taxes and all that bullshit behind it, because he's supporting affordable housing like people want, right?
And
But why
and
stay
you could tell
anonymous?
he was really impacted by that.
Why stay anonymous in something like that? I mean, he gave that statement, but he wanted to remain anonymous.
This is something in my, I don't remind people, remaining anonymous. However, my biggest issue, if you really give a damn about your state, your city, if you really give a damn about it, you need to speak up. You got to be stopping. The only reason why people are afraid to speak up is because of these dumb fucking liberals. And I call you in your face, and I will tell you this because I've said this in of quite a few faces. Y'all are dumb fucking liberals. Say something.
It was in a so the reason that it was anonymous is in the Seattle area, when operators talk about their struggles in their business,
it's fear.
They tend to get really attacked on their Yelp and the other areas, and they just, it's hard to be honest about your restaurant in the area when you get an organized attack against your social media.
And that's the problem. And this is one of the biggest issues. They're going to get attacked by people who don't even eat there. Dude, speak up. A lot of people going to stand by you. Stop being afraid of these pussies. Stop being afraid of these fucking man bitches. Stop being afraid of these people. Because let me tell you something. This happens so many times. People who do the most complaining is the ones who don't even fucking eat there. Who've never been there in their life. Y'all got to start standing up for what y'all believe in. Y'all got to start standing up for the truth. This fear-mongering shit, because y'all fear of other people, fuck them.
And so,
as a matter of fact, fuck their feelings too.
For a lot of operators, they're just uncomfortable talking publicly about their struggles. They're just trying to deal with it, and they're trying to figure out, how do we make the changes we need to survive?
Talking up.
All right. So how do we balance this? Because obviously, there are people who say it is very expensive to live in Seattle. People need to make fair wages. They need to make livable wages. And so you've got, one side that's really pushing for people to get that. At the same time, you don't want to kill that movement, but you also want reasonable menus at the restaurant. So how do we marry the two things and come to a compromise here?
Well, I think at the end of the day, that's why the report really wasn't advocating for change. It was just more an awareness. Because if you think about the number of the times that families eat out per week across the region, and if they eat out 2, 3, 4 times a week at 17% more, that's hundreds of dollars a week and a year, and it adds up. So it's significant, and being aware of why. I think a lot of us feel like we ought to unite as a community around affordable housing. And I think that's something we ought to come.
That is the dumbest fucking excuse I've ever heard. I knew that shit was going to be brought up. I knew that shit was going to be brought up. Out of all the places, I knew that fucking shit was going to be brought up. That is the dumbest excuse. Lower taxes. It is quite simple. Y'all are thinking about the stupidest thing. This is not oh my God. This is why I kind of go off the deep end a little bit, because I think a lot of people are stupid to believe the affordable housing bullshit. Because guess what? Whether you believe it or not, New York is about to go through that shit right now. And there are hundreds of thousands of people that are leaving New York. If y'all want to keep mentioning this affordable housing, y'all are going to fail. Y'all are going to end up homeless. Lower taxes. Lower taxes. You can't get much more than that. If you lower taxes, you have more money in your pocket to afford this shit. Why do you think rent prices increase? Lower it because of high taxes. Why do you think landlords increase their prices? High property tax. Lowering taxes is a low cost that can lower the rent. Y'all are making it more complicated than it looks.
Come together and figure out how do we make housing more affordable, how do we bring down the price of housing. It's a major issue for our team members, for the city, and we would unite in being part of that. But making restaurants unaffordable does not make housing affordable.
Because y'all, the restaurants are getting taxed up the fucking wazoo. They're getting taxed to that where they talking about affordable housing. This shit's not going to work. If the government gets their asses involved into this affordable housing bullshit, I'm telling you right now, it's going to turn into the fucking projects. I said this once and I'm saying this again. For the people who dislike this shit, fuck your feelings, because that's the truth. Whether you like it or not, it is the truth. If you don't understand having the business mindset, you need to understand this now. Because guess what? Whether you like this or not, you have to lower taxes in order to have more profit in your pockets. Whether you like this or not, this is the God-given truth. I just literally had somebody in my comment section saying he has to move his business. Do you really think I want to see that type of shit happen? No. But y'all keep being gung-ho about this fucking affordability crisis when y'all have a lifestyle issue. This is y'all problem because y'all have a lifestyle issue trying to impress other people instead of focusing on your pockets and learn how to think for yourself for once. Think for yourself. Do you understand what think for yourself mean? If you don't understand that, then you gotta look at yourself in the mirror, because until you understand that, then you're going to continue to be broke every single time. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below.